We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Chapter 6 review here. And the first question says, explain how to solve the portion A over B equals C over D for A. The quickest and shortest method in order to solve these kinds of problems is to multiply C times B and then divide by D. So I've shown the arrows here to demonstrate C times B and then divide by D, and you will end up with your answer A. It says write 3 examples of unit rates. So one example of a unit rate would be miles per gallon. Another example of a unit rate would be bananas are 40 cents per pound. And one more example would be 35 pounds per square inch. So notice that all of those have the word per in them. Per is usually one of the best indicators that we have of a unit rate being present. Number 3, describe how to find the probability of an event. To find the probability of any event, you are going to take the number of favorable outcomes, which is the things that you are hoping that will happen, or the things that you want to see what the chance is of happening, and then you will divide that by the number of possibilities, or you will put that over the number of possibilities in order to find your probability. Number 4 says, how is the counting principle used to find the number of possible outcomes for an event? Well, a good example would be to say that we have 4 sweaters and 3 pairs of pants, and we want to know how many different combinations of outfits we can make using those. Well, the easy way to determine those is to use the counting principle, which means that we'll multiply the number of options for each thing together to find out the total number of options, which is 12. Number 5 says, explain the difference between an independent and a dependent event. An independent event doesn't change based on the effects of other events. So for example, if I had a bag of marbles and I wanted to know the chance of drawing a green marble on the first draw, well, I would simply take the number of green marbles over the total number of marbles in the bag to figure out what my chance is of drawing a green marble. Now if I replace the marble and I draw again, my chances of drawing a green marble will still be the same, because the first event did not change the possibility on the second event of drawing a green marble, because I replaced the marble that I had already drawn. A dependent event would be if I had drawn the marble out and not replaced it, and then on the second draw I wanted to calculate the probability of drawing a green marble. So on a dependent event, the probability will change based on previous events that will affect the outcome. Number 6. It says each of the 25 students in Miss Santiago's homeroom takes a foreign language class. 12 take Spanish, 8 take French, and 5 take German. Write the ratios for the following. Number 6 is students taking German to students taking French. And what we want to remember when we go to write ratios is that we are supposed to keep the numbers either one on top of the other, or we can separate them with a colon. The second thing we want to remember about ratios is that it is not the same as a proportion. A proportion always uses a total number. A ratio also has a total number, but the ratio compares 2 different groups within that total. So the correct answer would be 5 to 8 in this case. There are 5 students taking German to 8 students taking French. Notice we do not mention the total number of students. The next one says, number 7, students taking Spanish to students not taking Spanish. To solve this problem, we will need to use the total number of students that there are in order to calculate how many students are not taking Spanish But notice that the total number of students, again, does not enter into our actual answer. So to find the number of students not taking Spanish, I subtract the number of students taking Spanish from the total, and I get 13 students that are not taking Spanish. Therefore, my ratio will be 12 to 13. The students taking Spanish to students not taking Spanish. Let's go ahead to number 8, and we're going to try and solve each proportion. So number 8 looks like this. If I want to solve my proportion, there is another way to it besides the shortcut method that I showed earlier. One way to do it is to simply cross multiply and then solve for x. So I will multiply 8 times 25, and I will multiply 10 times x, which gives me 10x equal 200. Then to solve for x, I simply do the opposite operation and divide by 10. So my answer will be x equals 20. Number 9. My proportion is 1.8 over x equals 2.4 over 64. I simply do the same thing. I cross multiply, and then I have 2.4x equals 115.2, and I simply divide by 2 on both sides in order to solve for x. My answer will be equals 48. You can see number 10, the same thing, only now we've got one more piece to this one. There is now a number by my variable, so it makes it a little more complicated when I go to cross multiply. The other piece that I need to realize about this problem is that I have a negative over here. So if I cross multiply, I will get 112y equals negative 224, because 4 times 28 obviously is 112. I keep variable there, and then I simply will divide again like I did on the previous problems. And whenever I do a negative divided by a positive number, I'm going to get a negative answer. So here's my answer right here. Number 11 becomes even more difficult because now I have some addition and subtraction involved with my variables. But the way that I can do that is by distributing, just like it's shown here. So I have 5, and I'm going to distribute to the y and to the negative 4 so that I come up with 5y minus 20, because 5 times y is 5y, and 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. So I have 5y minus 20. Over here, the same thing. I distribute, so I come up with 2y plus 16. The first thing that I need to do then is to try and get the y's both on the same side. So one way I can do that is to do the opposite operation. If I have 2y over here, I can do the opposite and subtract 2y from both sides, which gives me 3y, take away 20, equals 16. Now, if I want to combine the two numbers and leave the variable on one side by itself, I will do the opposite operation of subtracting 20 to adding 20. So if I add 20 to both sides, I get 3y equals 36. And then, of course, the final step is to divide by 3 on both sides, and I end up with my answer, y equals 12.